Hi, I'm Paula from Happy Yoga Wales, and this is a yin practice for the end of the day. So you can practice this any time of the day, but this will be particularly nice when you want to slow down. So we're going to start holding our poses for about a minute or two, and then we'll gradually slow things down, leading up to our 5-minute holds, maybe even a little bit longer towards the end. And we're going to target the whole body. You don't need any props, but if you've got some blocks, they will be useful, and this practice is suitable for absolutely everybody. So we're going to start today in child's pose. So come on down, bring the big toes to touch, and just bring your knees out as wide as is comfortable for you. So the wider they are, the more you're going to get into your hips here. And if you want a bit of support, pop your head down on a block, put some blankets underneath the thighs, and just reaching the arms out in front of you, just the way it feels like a comfortable stretch. Remembering in our yin practice, we're not pushing, we're just letting the body open up, relax in its own time. And just settling in here for a few minutes, connecting to the breath. And just becoming aware of all the sensations in your body. Maybe feeling where your body touches the ground, the mat. Sensations of coolness or heat. And if we can, seeing if we can let go of anything that may have happened or may be on our to-do lists for today. And just seeing if we can pop those to one side for the next half an hour or so. Knowing that they'll still be there when we're done with our practice. And feeling the breath coming into the back body. Feel the rib cage expand in all directions. Maybe noticing the breath starting to slow down. And keeping this theme of slowing down with us throughout our practice. If you notice the mind starts to get busy and wander, just gently, slowly bring it back to the breath, or maybe even into an intention or mantra that you like to work with. And if you haven't got one, I will offer one to you today. And that's very simply, I am here, I am present, I am enough. Just taking a few more breaths here. And as we come into our last breath, inhale fully. And then gently part the lips and just let it go, sigh it out gently. And then very slowly, just walking the fingertips back up towards the knees. And stacking the shoulders above the hips. And we're going to come into our toes pose. We're not going to be here too long. So as we said, we're working through these first few postures quite quickly. So spread the toes nice and wide. Even if you've got socks on like me, you can still do that. and then gently place your weight onto your heels. If this is too much sensation, just lift up slightly so you can lift the hips all the way up if that feels better. And then just settle in here, roll the shoulders back, draw the chin in, lift all through the crown of the head. And we're just here for 1 minute. And keeping that focus on the breath. Following its journey through the nostrils, all the way down, all the way to the deep belly if you can. Just taking our last few breaths here. Maybe feeling some heat, some sensation in the toes and the feet. And if you are, knowing that that's absolutely normal, it's okay. And you can come out of this pose whenever you need to. And then taking a big breath in. And gently sigh it out. And then leaning forwards onto the hands, release those toes, do whatever you need to release that sensation. So maybe tapping the feet gently, or pointing and flex, taking some little circles of the ankles. So much going on in our feet, it's really worthwhile doing this toes pose every day if we can. Not just for our foot health, but for our whole body. So moving up the chain, we're going to come into our yogi squat. So bring the feet about hip distance, toes turn out 45 degrees, and then sinking back here. If this is too much, grab yourself a block. Even if you can settle into that squat without a block, sometimes it's nice just to have that little bit of support. And again, we're only here for about another minute. So settling in here, maybe bringing the elbows to the inside of the knees, reaching tall through the crown of the head. And gently pressing those knees open. So for our practice to be yin in nature, we want to hold these poses really about 90 seconds or more. And that's the point when we target the ligaments, the tendons, rather than the muscles. And ideally practicing when our muscles aren't warm. So we're okay to have been moving around a little bit, but we don't want to practice yin after going for a run or some intense exercise. And just a few more breaths here. Seeing if you can soften just a little bit more. And then inhaling deeply, filling all the way up again into that back body, right the way down to the low belly. And then gently, slowly sigh it out of the mouth. Lovely. And from here, just bring the fingertips down and we're just gonna lift the hips and come into our dangling pose. So bring the feet so that they're parallel to each other, about hip distance apart. They can be a little bit wider. And take a good bend in the knees so that you can really rest your torso down here. Let the head be heavy. Arms can just hang. You can hold opposite elbows. It doesn't matter if you reach the floor here. If you want a little bit more support, you could put a block or a bolster underneath you to rest the arms or the head on. Taking a few breaths. There should be no deep sensation here, so no twinging or pulling in the hamstrings. We just want to feel a nice even stretch all the way through the back body, so maybe even through the calves, backs of the thighs, the glutes and the spine. And if you do feel it more in the hamstrings, just bend the knees a little bit more. Notice how that changes it.
Keeping the weight evenly distributed between the front of the foot and the back of the foot. And if this feels challenging, again, just bring that attention back to the breath. And then when you're ready, taking that big breath in. And gently sigh it out of the mouth. And release the fingertips down. And slowly bend the knees. We're just going to come back to our squat very briefly here. Just to release any tension in the low back. Maybe just move side to side. Or even if it feels good, placing the hips down and then finding some windscreen wipers here, bringing the knees side to side. So we're going to carry on opening up through the hips and we're going to come into our dragon pose. So making your way into a tabletop position. We're going to bring the right leg forward. So getting it there however is easiest for you. And just bring the feet so that they're about hip distance apart here. So sometimes we take our dragon pose with the front leg out wide, but we're going to keep it just in line with the hips here today. And if the floor feels a long way away, like it does for me with my little arms, then just bring your blocks underneath. And then let the hips sink forwards. So encouraging that front hip to come back and the back hip to come forwards. But really trying to find some softness here. Broad through the collarbones. And again, we're only here for about another minute. So trying to avoid chasing sensation here. So we go into that edge, that comfortable edge of our stretch. And then just staying there. If you've been busy running around, if you are doing this at the end of the day, then sometimes it's tempting to try and go that little bit further, do that little bit more. But in our yin practice, we really want to do that little bit less. And softening here for our last few breaths. And then inhaling deeply. And sighing it out. And from here, just use the hands to gently take the hips back. Maybe find a little hamstring stretch. We're not going to stay here, but it might feel nice just moving forwards and back. Just for a few breaths. And then when you're ready, bring that right leg back and we'll take that on the left side. So bringing the left leg forwards in between the hands. And again, our feet are about hip distance apart. Bringing the blocks underneath you. These can be set at any height. And just being aware that one side might feel completely different to the other. So squaring the hips as much as you can, drawing that front hip back and back hip forwards. And then start to soften into the pose. Find length all the way through the crown of the head. In our yoga practice, we're always looking for this balance between effort and ease. But in our yin practice, even more so, we're leaning towards the side of ease. So while we might feel sensation here, we really want to encourage this softness, Maybe even just gently closing the eyes or bringing a smile to the lips to encourage the body to slow down. And then taking our last breath here, big inhale. And sigh it out. And then again, send the hips back, maybe just straightening through that front leg. So find a little bit of movement through the hips and a little stretch into the hamstring. Okay, so we're going to come into our puppy pose, so bringing the knees back into our tabletop position. You can keep your blocks handy if you've got them here and take them out a little bit wider than the mat. So either with or without the blocks, I'll show you without first. We're going to stack the hips above the knees and then walk the hands out as wide as your yoga mat and then bring the forehead down. And there's not much weight here on the head, so we want to make sure that the neck is nice and safe. So just draw the low belly in slightly and notice how that changes the stretch. So maybe you feel it more in the armpits or the front of the chest, front of the shoulders, as opposed to when we let the low belly go and that stretch shifts into the low back, or the stress rather. So just keeping that little bit of engagement in the lower abdominals and then seeing if we can release, relax through the upper back, through the shoulders as much as possible here. And if you're using your blocks, just placing the hands on the blocks might change the sensation slightly for you. I know it does for me. And then coming into our last few breaths here. And taking a big breath in. And sigh it out. So coming out of your puppy pose, just walk the hands off your blocks if they're on them, and then slide the body forwards onto your belly. And we're going to come into our Sphinx pose. So we're coming to our longer holds now. So bring the elbows underneath the shoulders, maybe even a little bit closer depending on your anatomy here. And then broaden through the collarbones and send the shoulders all the way down the back. And just gazing down at the mat, gently pressing the hips into the floor. There should be no tension here, no pinching in the low back. So just make sure that if you do feel any sensation, you slide the elbows forwards to bring that that stress, that effort more into the upper back. That's where we want to feel it. And then just relaxing wherever you can. So we're going to be here for another 2 minutes. And if at any point this Sphinx pose gets a little bit too intense, just know that we're winding down now, so we're coming towards the slower, really gentle part of our practice. So if you want to change your mind and come out of your Sphinx pose, you can always come down to crocodile pose, just making a little pillow with the hands and resting the forehead down. So we're still getting an opening through the front of the shoulders, the front of the chest here. And allowing the low back, the whole of the spine to settle. So wherever you are, keeping that breath nice and steady. Focusing on slow exhales. And then coming into our last few breaths. In your own time, taking a big breath in. And exhale, sigh it out. And just go ahead, and if you're not there already, make a pillow with the hands and then rest the forehead down. And then from here, just slide the right knee up and out to the side. So this is our half frog pose. So maybe you feel an opening in the front of the hip. Maybe you can feel this a little bit more in the glutes, the muscles around the back of the hips. But wherever you are, just feel completely supported by the ground. And if they're not already, feel free to close the eyes here. And just taking your last breath on this side. And without moving anything else, just go ahead and slide that leg back down. Maybe just taking a moment to pause and feel the difference from one side to the other. And maybe acknowledging how you're feeling as we start to slow down this practice even more. And then when you're ready, go ahead and slide that left knee out to the side. So our shin, lower leg here is parallel to the mat, making almost a 90-degree angle. It doesn't need to be quite 90 degrees. You can slide that knee further down towards the tail end of your mat. So we're just going towards this very gentle stretch in the hips. And just asking yourself here, where can you let go? Where can you slow down and do that little bit less? And our last few breaths here, if the mind has started to wander, just bring the attention back to the breath, and where you feel it in the body. And then when you're ready, just sliding that leg back down. And again, just pausing here for a moment. And then from here, we're just going to make our way into our Savasana. And you feel comfortable on your belly, you can always stay lying on your belly for a few more minutes. Otherwise, you can roll onto your back. And then finding your version of Savasana here. So bring the shoulder blades underneath you. We've worked a lot into the hips today, but if you do want a little bit more hip opening, you can bring the soles of the feet together and find our reclined butterfly pose. You could even take the arms out into a cactus position here. Really surrender into the ground. Otherwise, just let the legs come out long and find your traditional relaxation pose, or Savasana. And lengthening through the back of the neck, so the chin's just drawn in slightly. Let's take one big breath in here. And then gently sigh it out, let it go. And giving yourself permission here to completely relax, to go slow, knowing that this is exactly what your body, your mind needs. No effort required. If the eyes are closed, you can keep them closed. And just start to become aware of your surroundings. Maybe visualizing yourself lying here. Imagining the space that your body takes up. And then feeling into that space. Feel every cell in your body alive and awake. And take a big breath in. And again, sigh out. And one more big breath in. Feel that energy go into every cell. And sigh out. Last time, inhale. And sigh out. And then in your own time, bending one knee and then the other. And rolling onto one side. And just taking a moment here. Maybe coming back to your intention that you set at the start of our practice. I am here, I am present, I am enough. Or any other intention, affirmation that you might have been working with today. And just reminding yourself how it feels to slow down. Maybe, just maybe, we can take something from this practice off our mat into our day. And when you're ready, coming on up to a seat. And bringing the hands together. Shoulders above the hips, reach tall through the crown of the head. Inhale. And namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Remember to like and comment, and if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do that now. That will really help me out. And I look forward to seeing you next time for some more yin, restorative, yoga nidra. If there's anything else that you'd like to see on this channel, then do let me know again in the comments, and I will practice with you soon.